Welcome to Life Talk. This is a podcast where we discuss real life issues within the young people in the Ethiopian and Eritrean community. In this conversation, we talked about the identity issues within our community. A lot of young people feel lost and unsure about who they are. So we hope that you connect with this topic and you join us for more. I'm talking what I think is normally. My friend says, "Why are you talking so white?"
Yeah.
He says, "Why are you talking so white?" And I go, "What are you talking about?" Like, I'm just talking. And he's like, "No, you gotta talk black, man." I'm looking at him like, "You're Ethiopian. What are you talking about?" Like, and I remember that just confused me. I need to change the way I talk. I'm doing this thing right. Performing well enough.
We need community resources, especially here in the DMV area, where there is a lot of, Ethiopian, Eritrean. We need to have a lot of community resources, and a lot of, ministries and organizations that really work on this. So that's very important. But also, one thing I want to mention was political activism, as well. Of course, trying to really shape and change the social context. Of course, we need to get engaged in those kind of activisms. Sometimes it could be excessive, it could be violent. We need, because at the end of the day, even if we deal with the external environment, we may still live with a broken mind and with a broken heart.
Yeah.
So we need to be forgiving. We need to, we need to learn to let things go. There is no future. In Desmond Tutu said there is no future without forgiveness. There is no future without. Don't keep hold on to your grudge, your heart, in your heart, and just forgive. Forgive and move on. Let that go. And Jesus taught us that too. Forgiveness. And in many cultures, in many religions, forgiveness is a very, very noble virtue. So definitely, I encourage those who are listening to this Live Talk podcast, encourage them to really think about forgiveness, think about reconciliation, social activism and improving the social context, the laws, the policies, and impacting those laws and those policies that really help racism keep going unchecked. Of course, we need to work on. But at the same time, we need to work from another side of reconciling communities, forgiving community. Let's forgive those who really think that they hurt us. So that really helps a lot. And in your visit to Ethiopia, and I encourage, guys, go back to Ethiopia, Eritrea. You've been recently to Ethiopia, Eritrea. How was your trip?
Oh, I was gonna say.
Yes, I love it.
I was actually gonna.
How did they help you?
I felt really ignorant going there. Like while I was there, I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't know as much as I mean, even prior to that, I was like, I don't know as much as I should. And that's the thing, a goal of mine is to learn more about my culture, because why not? When someone asks you a question about your culture, something that you should know and you don't know, it's really embarrassing. I mean, I can admit that it's really embarrassing, where it's like, okay, like you don't know what this means, or you don't know how to, and even being born in Eritrea.
Or if they tell you something about your own
Yeah,
culture,
and it's like, I should have known that. Oh my gosh, it's so embarrassing. Like, even though I was born in Eritrea, I came here when I was really young. And then I grew, I was around really diverse, I went to really diverse schools. Even though I grew up in in mostly Ethiopian and Eritrean churches when I was younger, we all spoke English. Half the people I was around grew up in America, were born here. So it was like, I was forced to kind of adapt to that and learn English, and my ability to speak Tigrinya in Ethiopia kind of depleted, went down. So I went back to Ethiopia and Eritrea a month ago. Well, no, I came back almost a month ago. And I remember learning about the divisiveness in Ethiopia, especially amongst different ethnic groups. There's ethnic groups in Ethiopia. Even on TikTok, actually, because I have TikTok, I'm on it all the time. There's been more Habeshas on my For You page. I see more Habeshas that are in the DMV, that are, in Seattle, places where there's a bunch of Habeshas there. And you'll see in their bios, oh, I'm Tigray, or I'm I'm this and this and this. And people in the comments are like, well, aren't we all just Habesha? Aren't we all da-da? And people are like, but, for a really long time, and even still now, there's so much division amongst like different ethnic groups with languages. I mean, not America, Africa in itself is very, very diverse. You know, a lot of us like to like group it as like one continent. It's like, okay, it's Africa, but it's so much deeper than that. There's so many cultures, there's so many ethnicities, there's so many different ways of living within even one country in itself. And I recognized that when I went to Ethiopia. And then when I was in Eritrea, I was like, okay, I can barely speak Tigrinya. Like, I can understand it a lot more, even Amharic. But I was like, I can barely speak it. So I had my mom translate like a bunch of it, or like we would, like my siblings and I, like my siblings don't know how to speak Amharic or Tigrinya. They can say like salam and that's about it, or like amasagnalo and that's it. So you realize like going back there, it's a very humbling experience because you come from America where I feel like there's a sense of entitlement where it's like, okay, like at least like we have these opportunities here. We have like I dress a certain way, I have this amount of money, and then you go back home and it's like, these are the resources that you're like people, your grandparents, your family over there are making use of, and they're thriving. Thriving is very relative. I don't want to say thriving and people think like, oh my gosh, they're like so much money. No, they're making use of what they have. And like I said, it's a very humbling experience. And it made me appreciate what I have here and also how hard the people who've come before me and my parents have worked. It really like, I think strengthened my identity within my being Eritrean and Ethiopian. And I think that really helps. Going back and going to the place where you're born, where you're from, where your parents are from, I think is a really good idea.
The one you said, Sunny, the divisiveness that you have experienced in Ethiopia along, ethnic lines, Amhara, Tigray, Oromo, this tells us, this is a human condition.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you are living here in America, we think of this a white issue. We think of this as an African American issue.
Yeah.
But this is a human condition.
Yeah.
That helps a lot, Even the very people that we identify with in Ethiopia, have those different identities, and people struggle, in finding a common ground there too.
Yeah.
So it is a human condition that we need to work on. This is a human condition. This is a wholeness of our heart. This is a sin issue. It's not a white issue. It's not an African American issue. It's not a Amhara or Oromo Tigray issue. Something that is something that needs to be fixed in our mind, in our heart. The way we look at people and the way we want to relate with people has to be transformed, has to be changed. And this is a universal, a human condition too. So we need to. That will help us, not to become too angry at, what's going on here in this culture too.
Yeah.
Wow, what a great discussion.
I was gonna really quickly, something I remembered was I was with my a family friend's daughter in Eritrea. We were walking through Asmara, and I was asking her I think we saw somebody, I don't know what I saw, I forgot what I saw, but I asked her, I was like, what is the mental health, access to mental health, resources, places like that here, right, in Eritrea? And she told me, I was like, do you guys have therapy, things like that? And she was like, I barely even know what that is. I mean, mind you, she's 16, but at the same time, it's she's very knowledgeable about current issues there, even globally, because she was raised in she went to an Italian, international school in Eritrea. But I was like, what are the resources here that people can get help with when it comes to physically, health-wise, and then mentally? And she was like, yeah, no, there's barely there's not things like therapy. People are very much closed off when it comes to their mental illness, especially when it comes to mental illness and things like that. And I was like, okay, wow, our own people are struggling, and we don't realize that. I don't think a lot of the times we think about mental illness within our own community. And I think that's a very big and very real topic that needs to be explored and talked about and find practical ways. So when you brought up therapy and things like that, I can attest to the power of therapy, because I'm in therapy right now and I have been since March of this year. And I think it's a wonderful way to be able to confide in someone and have that space to just openly talk about things without restriction, right? To be able to if you're about to cry and you feel you've been holding in something, you're allowed to cry. Where a lot of the times you don't have that opportunity when it comes to sometimes even around your own friends, where you're okay, I don't know if I can share this, or I don't want to share it, or even around your own parents, things like that. So having something like that, which is a practical thing, like Inton, like having therapy, these resources, when you have them available to you, please use them. I know it's easier said than done to like discuss your mental health and things like that, but it's such a detriment to our communities and people even in general that things like therapy are really amazing. And so, yeah.
Great.
Well, thank you for sharing your journey in that. I think that's groundbreaking, and I hope conversations about mental health continue in our community.
Yeah.
Definitely needed.
Wow, what a great conversation that we had today. Wow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can as like a closing sort of, Pastor, you're a parent, and I know you've mentored and you still mentor to this day, youth, young adults, adolescents, whatever it is. And as a parent, what are things that you think other Habesha parents could implement within their own homes, to help their children, whether they're really young or young adults, kind of open up and feel comfortable about sharing their own struggles? And do you have things that you've implemented in your own home to help your children feel comfortable talking to you about certain things or whatever? What are your advice to other parents?
Wow. Well, that's a great question. Definitely, what I would like to advise, to parents, on the issues is not being judgmental, very important,
Yeah.
not being judgmental, but also being available. Sometimes, parents want to, provide their kids with great, clothes, saving money for their education, provide them, nice education, but they don't that's good, but the kids want more than that. They want their parents, their time, they spend with them. It's not what they provide to, but they're longing for the time to spend with their parents. Many Habesha or Ethiopian Eritrean kids stay home. Dad and mom working 16, 14 hours. They're not at home, and kids are struggling. So please, one thing that I really want help them a lot. Of course, I moved here, 4 years ago. My 16 years old girl and a 14 years old boy. When they moved here, they were 10 years old and 12 years old. Somehow, have formed their identity, still being reshaped a lot. But in conversations, very important, honest, open conversations without judgment, without listen to them and talk to them, spend time with them, and don't be judgmental. Try to really learn about the challenges, the issues that they go through. So much more than providing, you provide them food, you provide them clothes, but we need to provide them with love, with care, with time.
Yeah.
So every kid, really struggles because they don't have that emotional connection with their parents. You need to connect them not just only through providing these things, but also connect with your kids emotionally, so that spending time with them and having real conversations and not being judgmental and listen to their struggles, even if they are going through hard times, be there, be available for them, and embrace them, love them, care for them. So that's very important. That's what I really help a lot. With my daughter, with my son, we talk a lot on so many issues. Some of the parents may not have that level of, competency when it comes to language, when it comes to understanding their context. But still, there's a lot that we can do in terms of being available, being caring, being there, and also help, and also the churches and communities can help a lot on this, and try to educate our parents.
Yes.
But also, if they are not able to do it by themselves, they can really open up and connect them with resources.
Yes.
Oh, I know I can do this. I'm not knowledgeable on this. I can help you. Connect with with the community resources. Connect with a professional advice. So there's a lot that can be done for our for this generation that are really struggling, and teach them your culture, teach them your language. Don't get intimidated. Sometimes we ourselves get intimidated by the culture. Don't get intimidated by and give them that sense of pride, not proud, sense of being Ethiopian, being Eritrean, there's nothing wrong with being Ethiopian, Eritrean. Even if you come from a poor background, even if you come from a broken nation, it doesn't mean anything. So instill those values in them, you know, and try to help them to be themselves. Yeah, and that will really help a lot.
Well, I think that's a great place to end this podcast. Thank you guys so much, and thank you for everybody watching, for joining us. This is our first Life Talk episode, and I can't wait for the next one. Beautiful. Amazing.